Japan just surrendered its sovereignty to America. And if you think this does not affect India, you are dead wrong. What happened in Tokyo 2 days ago is a wake-up call for every nation that thinks America treats its allies with respect. On September 7th, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba resigned in shame. Just days earlier, he had signed the most humiliating trade deal in modern diplomatic history. Japan agreed to hand over $550 billion to Donald Trump, with America deciding where every single dollar of this money gets invested. Yes, you heard that right. Japan became America's ATM. But here is what's truly shocking. US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick went on live television and laughed about it. He literally said, the Japanese have given $550 billion to President Trump to direct where these funds are invested. It is the most fun working for Donald Trump.
Japanese government will give $550 billion to Donald Trump to invest as the United States and Donald Trump sees fit in America. So the Japanese will get back their money, and 90% of the profits will go to the American citizens, the American taxpayer.
Imagine someone talking about India like this. How would you feel? Your blood would boil, right? So let me break down exactly what Japan agreed to, because this affects every Indian watching this video. Japan will invest $550 billion in American projects, but here is the catch. 90% of all profits go back to America. Japan also accepted 15% tariffs on their exports, promised to buy $8 billion worth of American agricultural products every year, and committed to purchasing 100 Boeing aircraft. They even agreed to a boomerang clause that if Japan fails to invest as promised, tariffs will shoot up to 25%. While Japan was busy getting humiliated, China was already moving in to take advantage. Right after the deal was signed and Ishiba resigned, Beijing stepped up its charm game. Chinese officials began pushing for a stronger partnership with Japan and South Korea, offering regional trade cooperation under RCEP and even floating the idea of a trilateral economic pact. Basically, China saw Japan's weakness and said, "Come closer, we will treat you better." On the military side, China did not waste a second. Its warships and aircraft carriers increased their activity near Japanese waters. Chinese fighter jets even entered Japanese airspace, something that has never happened before. This is not random, this is calculated. China knows Japan is now politically weak and economically handcuffed, so they are testing how far they can push. This proves one thing. When a country becomes too dependent on the US, their enemies get stronger. Now you might wonder, why did Japan, the world's third largest economy, agree to such insulting terms? The answer reveals America's true face when dealing with allies. Trump threatened Japan with 25% tariffs that would have destroyed their export-dependent economy. In 2024 alone, Japan exported approximately $150 billion worth of goods to the United States, making it a significant trade partner. With over 54,000 American troops stationed on Japanese soil and complete dependence on US security guarantees, Japan had no choice but to surrender. America used both economic threats and military leverage to force Japan into submission. Just like Japan, South Korea is now facing tariff blackmail from the US. Trump's administration has already demanded a massive deal from Seoul, and they are calling it a full and complete trade deal. What does this deal include? 15% tariffs on Korean exports, just like Japan. In return, South Korea has agreed to invest $350 billion in American industries, including $200 billion in chips and $150 billion in shipbuilding. On top of that, they will also buy $100 billion worth of US energy. Sound familiar, right? It's the same playbook. South Korea even created a special government task force just to deal with US tariff threats. And just like Japan, they were forced to make these deals without any real negotiation power. It's pure pressure tactics from Washington. America calls it diplomacy, but we call it extortion of allies. More like monthly EMI customers. In Japan, the political fallout was immediate and devastating. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party suffered their worst electoral defeat since 1955, losing majority in both houses of parliament for the first time in 70 years. Their vote share crashed to just 21.6%, the lowest in party history. Ishiba faced such intense pressure from his own party members that resignation became his only option. But wait, there's something even more disturbing about this deal. Japan was so desperate to avoid higher tariffs that they agreed to negotiate without creating any formal written agreement. Think about this. A $550 billion deal with no proper documentation. Former Japanese trade official Masahiko Hosokawa called this unthinkable in normal diplomatic negotiations. Japan is a key player in the Indo-Pacific and the Quad alliance along with India, Australia and the United States. But now, with Japan politically shaken and economically tied to US interests, the balance of power in the region is starting to tilt. China is using this moment to push harder in Asia. It has already increased naval patrols and is flexing muscle in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, smaller countries in ASEAN like Vietnam, Philippines and Indonesia, who once saw Japan as a strong alternative to China, are now starting to rethink their strategies. If Japan bows down to US pressure, can they really trust the Quad? This situation doesn't just weaken Japan, it weakens the entire anti-China alliance structure in Asia. Look around. The US is using the same tactic everywhere. In NATO, Trump forced European allies to increase their defense spending by over $140 billion. In the EU, a new trade deal forced Europe to invest up to $750 billion in American energy and weapons just to reduce tariffs. This is a clear pattern. Allies are being told, pay us or suffer. Whether it's Japan, South Korea or even Europe, they're all being turned into financial colonies of the US. This is not partnership. This is economic imperialism disguised as trade deals. If this is helping you understand how powerful nations manipulate their allies, take a moment to support this research. I've spent hours connecting the dots, exposing these new age economic traps, and explaining what most mainstream media won't. Subscribe now to stay informed. Every subscription helps signal YouTube to share this video with more viewers. Your support motivates me to create many more videos like this where I expose the truth, not just headlines. Here's where every Indian needs to pay attention. This is exactly how America treats countries that become too dependent on it. Japan, despite being called America's closest ally in Asia, was reduced to what experts are calling a financial colony. If America can do this to Japan, what message does this send to countries like India? The good news is, India has chosen a completely different path. And this is why our approach matters more than ever. When Trump imposed 50% cumulative tariffs on Indian goods, because we continued buying Russian oil, India didn't buckle. Instead of surrendering like Japan, India strengthened partnerships with Russia, Iran, and the Global South. We diversified our trade relationships, deepened cooperation with ASEAN, and maintained our strategic autonomy. Just last month, India and Japan signed their 15th annual summit agreement, strengthening defense cooperation and technology sharing. But here's the key difference. India enters these partnerships as an equal, not as a subordinate. We have learned from history that strategic autonomy is non-negotiable. The Japan crisis also exposes the fragility of the Quad partnership. With Japan politically unstable and economically subordinated to Washington, the effectiveness of India-Japan-Australia-US cooperation faces serious challenges. For middle powers like India, the lesson is crystal clear. Never become so dependent on any single country that they can humiliate you publicly and force you to pay for the privilege. India's approach of maintaining multiple strategic partnerships while refusing to compromise on sovereignty offers a counter-model to Japan's capitulation. Unlike some countries, we don't beg or act like fools. India plays the game like a king, not a clown. We have shown that it's possible to engage with America without becoming America's client state. Now that Ishiba is gone, Japan is heading into a leadership battle. Two names are in the spotlight. Sanae Takaichi, a conservative who loves bold economic policies, and Shinjiro Koizumi, a younger, more moderate voice from a famous political family. But here's the twist. Neither of them has promised to cancel or renegotiate the $550 billion deal. Analysts believe Koizumi will likely continue the same policies quietly. Takaichi might try to boost the economy with government spending, but even she is unlikely to challenge the US on trade. In simple words, Japan's surrender is here to stay. The humiliation of Japan should serve as a warning to every developing nation. In Trump's world, there are no allies, only payers and beneficiaries. Countries either pay tribute to America or face economic destruction. But India has proven there's a third option: strategic independence, backed by diversified partnerships and unwavering commitment to national dignity. This is why understanding geopolitics isn't just academic. It directly affects your future, your economy, and your country's place in the world. If this analysis opened your eyes to how power really works in international relations, hit that subscribe button and share this video with every Indian who believes in our nation's sovereignty. Jai Hind.